Why would someone spend 14 years carving the face of 4 men into a mountain? This is Mount Rushmore, one of the most unique monuments in all of America. In this video, I will answer all previously asked questions about Mount Rushmore and tell you everything you need to know about this national monument, including the very dark truth about its construction. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as I inject knowledge into your brain in a silly, yet informative and serious way. In 1920, South Dakota state historian Doane Robinson suggested building a monument to pay attribute to the heroes of the West. The Black Hills in South Dakota had a beautiful landscape filled with natural spires where these monuments could be carved. He wanted to emulate Lewis and Clark, the Sioux chief Red Cloud, and many more other legends of the West. This plan was deterred when Danish sculptor Gutzon Borglum arrived. Borglum had a plan to make a much more significant monument, giving tribute to U.S. heroes. He felt that American presidents were more representative of U.S. history and said, "These 4 men represent the most important events in the history of America." Crazy meat riding, in my opinion. Over the course of the next 14 years, 400 men worked hard to chisel out the faces of 4 men. The first of these men, George Washington, first president of the United States who helped gain independence from Britain. Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States who helped author the Declaration of Independence, and a personal favorite of mine, enacted the Louisiana Purchase, where he bought probably a third of what America is today from Napoleon. Do you realize how crazy that is? And he got it for a serious discount. I'm just saying, bro. History is crazy. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president of the United States. He fought for the Union in the Civil War and ended slavery with the Emancipation Proclamation. And finally, Teddy Roosevelt, the 26th president of the United States. He fought heavily for preservation. He's the reason why we have such beautiful and protected national parks today. But how did they build Mount Rushmore? 14 years may seem like quite a long time, but it's because the people who were sculpting Mount Rushmore weren't artists. They were miners. This Borglum guy, he saw something special in those miner goons, and he said, "I'm choosing you guys to make it go on the construction of Mount Rushmore." The tools utilized were chisels and jackhammers, but most importantly, dynamite. The dynamite allowed them to blast open massive portions of granite to then get down to the fine-tuned details. It took them about 3 years to finish Washington's face. Then they followed it with Jefferson's face. At one point, they messed up Jefferson's face really bad and they started completely from scratch. That is so unfortunate. Getting into Lincoln, they originally considered not even adding him. They were going to have a tablet of all this American documents and inspirational American dialect, but instead they said, Lincoln represents that himself, so let's just go ahead and add him. And then at the back end, they also decided to add Teddy Roosevelt. In 1941, they were preparing to sculpt the torsos of all of these presidents, but unfortunately, the main sculptor, Gutzon Borglum, passed away. Funds were running low, World War II came along, so they decided, let's call it quits. Let's call this monument complete. Some facts about Mount Rushmore. Get ready to get your mind blown. How much do you think it costed to build Mount Rushmore? $1 million, you guessed? Yeah, that's exactly right, which I find hilarious. That seems hilariously low, in my opinion, based on massive projects as we know them throughout the history of the United States. $1 million over the course of 14 years? Bro, it's like $70K a year. Chump change, bro. These dudes had zero bread. Mount Rushmore sees 4 times the amount of visitors than people who live there every year. Tourism makes the world go round. Each face is about 60 feet long, which is pretty massive, in my opinion. 60 feet, even 6 feet, even 6 inches is really big. How did Mount Rushmore get its name? It's named after a lawyer named Charles E. Rushmore, who traveled from New York to South Dakota for fun. Went to the monument, and he was talking to some of the workers. He said, "What's the name of this thing?" He said, "It doesn't have a name." He said, "Well, you're naming it after me now." And they jokingly said, "Haha, yeah, we will." Brought it to the board, and guess what? They did. Shoot your shot, King. Getting into the dark truth of Mount Rushmore. Now, I'm not being woke here. I'm just spitting facts. If you know anything about the history of America, there were settlers in America before we arrived. Native Americans. They just continuously pushed Native Americans further and further west. You can look it up, Trail of Tears. I mean, seriously, look that up. Crazy stuff, pretty brutal. Black Hills, where Mount Rushmore is located, was sacred to the Lakota tribe before it was encroached upon by new settlers. During the ensuing years, the treaties were neglected, many Lakota were killed, and the most sacred ground of them all, the Six Grandfathers Mountain, ended up being exactly where Mount Rushmore was built a few decades later. Additionally, lead sculptor Gutzon Borglum, remember us talking about him? He had serious ties to the KKK. All in all, I bring this portion up because there's more to history than meets the eye. When I was first learning about Mount Rushmore, I saw XYZ. When you dig deeper, you find some serious truths. As Winston Churchill once said, history is written by the victors. But I'm not gonna get political. I hope you learned something about Mount Rushmore. All jokes aside, I just hit you with an absurd amount of facts. You should be thankful. Whose idea was this? It was mine. AKA y'all are lacking in suggestions, so drop one in the comments below. You already know Enzo elaborates on the come up. So like, comment, and subscribe. And until the next video, we out.